Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm giving our home office a makeover. In the last video, I refurbished our old French doors, and in this video, I'm installing a coffered ceiling. We have standard 8-foot ceilings, and I didn't want to do anything too big and bulky, so I opted for more of a low-profile, faux coffered ceiling look. Check out the description below for all the tools and materials that I used, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new DIY tutorials. For this project, I'm using 8-foot Select Pine 1x4s as well as this 8-foot detail trim. Both of these are linked in the description below. The detail trim will go on either side of the 1x4s like this. Before installing anything, I prepped the lumber first. I sanded the detail trim with 220 grit sandpaper. I used a small detail sanding kit to get in all the small grooves. Next, I stained the trim with gel stain in the color Dark Walnut by Varathane. I'm staining these trim pieces before hanging them, which will be much easier than trying to stain them on the ceiling. I will just need to touch them up after cutting them and nailing them into the ceiling. Now I'm prepping the 1x4s. I sanded these down with 220 grit sandpaper as well. I didn't stain these yet because after I install them, I'll need to fill nail holes and seams with wood filler and do one final sanding before staining. I'm making a hashtag design on the ceiling, so I took measurements of the room and then divided it into 9 equal sections. Once I had the measurements down, I transferred these measurements to the ceiling and then snapped chalk lines where the outside of my 1x4s will be placed. 2 of the lines run perpendicular to the ceiling joists, and I will secure the 1x4s on these rows right into studs, so I marked out those studs. To secure the 1x4s, I'm using a clear adhesive and 2-inch brad nails. I started with a full 8-foot 1x4, square cut the end that will be going against the crown molding, and then mitered the other end of the trim so that the next piece meets up nicely and creates a clean seam. I staggered 2 full 1x4s and then measured and cut the remaining 1x4 to finish the row. After the 2 full-length rows were finished, I filled in the rest of the 1x4s. Since these 1x4s can't be secured into studs, I'm just using glue and brad nails, but making sure to stagger the brad nails at an angle so that they grab into the drywall. Now that all the 1x4s are secured, I'm going back and filling all the nail holes and seams with wood filler. After the wood filler dried, I sanded it down with 220 grit sandpaper. I hooked up my orbital hand sander to the shop vac to minimize dust. Now that the boards are completely sanded and smooth, I stained them with the same dark walnut gel stain. I got a little bit of the edges of the 1x4s as well in case any of the sides show through the detail trim. Next, I measured and cut all the detail trim to fit inside each of the boxes. I mitered each of the corners of the detail trim at 45 degrees so the corners fit together perfectly. Where the trim butt up to the crown molding, I just straight cut it. The molding is installed, and now I'm just going through and filling all the nail holes and corners with stain using a small paintbrush. I didn't bother filling the holes and corners with wood filler because the stain concealed them perfectly. There we have a beautiful faux coffered ceiling. This is a great DIY project if you're looking for something more beginner friendly. It's a simple detail that you can add to your space that makes a huge impact. Thank you so much for watching. In the next video, I'm building a big built-in bookshelf/library, so stay tuned for that video next.